Hey guys, it's Matt. Putting all joking and kidding aside from the last few videos, it's time to have a very serious conversation about a decision that many of us are being forced to make, many of us in this community. It's no decision at all for the people around us. Of course, it's what's best for you, it's what's best for everyone, it's what's best for society. They don't see any of what we see. Many of us are being forced into a decision. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. The V, the Fred Flintstone, Jabba Dabba Doo. Um, how ironic in a country where they told you your entire life that nothing is more valued than the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech. We no longer can speak, but I can't stray in this video. It's too important, and I will clean up the comment section. It's like check this link out. No, this is too important. The comments from good people on this issue is too important. Matt, here's a new Mandela effect. No, I'm going to clean up a lot of comments, and it's just too important. By the way, before we get into it, if anybody's interested, that's Bootsy, and like that pose there, literally she can hit Carole King's album. I think it's Carole King Tapestry from 1971. There she goes. That is like it's literally Bootsy. That is we have like the same cat from the cover of Carole King's Tapestry. There she goes. No Bootsy, you ate. Um, Tails flying in front of the camera. Okay, guys. I don't know. Most of us are not in the situation that I'm in. Okay, I have no kids. I have cats. I'm in my 50s. I've been in the house here for 20 years. Yeah, everything's paid for. I get by on your donations, but I live meagerly. I don't do anything. I don't go anywhere. So of all people, I'm least forced to make this decision. So it's no decision for me, of course. I'm not I'm not interested in it, of course, as most of you are not. You know what I'm talking about. But many people are people have been emailing me for 6 months. It started to heat up right about 6 months ago, where one person, I believe from Hawaii, works in a hospital. I don't believe in a medical capacity, but works in a hospital, and have a series of protocols. They're essentially forcing people into it, saying, okay, well, you don't have to, but you need to be tested this many times, and then after such and such a date, the cost of the test, roughly $250 to $300 a month, will be taken out of your paycheck. So, is that is that leaving the decision up to the person, or is that the person being forced? Obviously, for many people that don't have piles and piles of reserves in their bank accounts, it's essentially being forced. And that's kind of the heart of the matter when we get into people having to make a decision for their careers, for their families, what they're going to do. But forewarned long ago, just made a video. His son, I believe it's his son, yes, was luckily could have been worse, I believe, not dishonorably discharged from boot camp because just said I won't do it. They threatened dishonorable. I don't believe that's what happened, but in the video he said um, this kid's whole life is different. I mean, you want to talk about the movie Sliding Doors or two paths diverge in a woods. I mean, somebody committing to their 20 years in the military or not. The whole life is different, and we all make those choices. Maybe you could say every day when we go outside, but this is magnified times 1,000 when something like that happens. So, look, I'm getting a lot of emails. I know the situation thousands of us in this community are in. And do I have all the answers or any answers? Probably not, but I'll give you my take on things and at least highlight to me the most important parts of any decision that anybody would need to make or is going to need to make. And I'll give you my take on it. So if you're in a situation where your job's in jeopardy or you believe you're being forced or whatever it may be, The main fork in the road, the one that just comes right in your face immediately, and it's so glaring that this is the main decision, but few people, nobody ever even talks about this. It's just strange to me. So let's just jump right into it. A decision to not do it, would it be based on physical, protecting the body, health concerns, what you've been hearing about side effects, or all the stuff? Is it about is the decision about the body, or is the decision about protecting the soul, spiritual type decision? To me, this is the gigantic fork in the road right from the start. You have to make this decision, and of course, it could be a bit of both as well, but it's not one or the other. I'm not sure even how to talk about this, so I'll just tell you what my thoughts would be. If I was in a situation where I had two kids, was an accountant for a hospital group, and I have 90 days, or I'm out. One of those. How many thousands and thousands of us are in that situation? To me, based on everything I've observed, I would, and if I, for me, okay, this is for me. Okay, I'm in my 50s. I wouldn't care one bit about the effects on the body. I simply don't care about that aspect. It's all about 100% or very close to 100%. I don't want to make it seem like, well, Matt, if you get it, then you just drop over. You wouldn't care about. Well, yeah, obviously, but it's all about protecting the spiritual essence, the soul, and we'll get into that. Is there, can something put into you? Can it steal your soul? And we'll get into that. I mean, there's evidence on both sides. There's evidence that let's just take it one step at a time, okay? To me, I would care less about the effects on the body, okay? I don't buy into now. Don't misconstrue or take me out of context. Um, my uncle, he went in for he was in Abington Hospital for 2 weeks for a blood clot. Okay, I'm not saying it's. Please don't take this out of context. But I don't. On the other side, I don't buy all of the truther videos and the BitChute videos about the mass die-offs. I just don't buy it. I'm sorry. It's fear pushing. I'm sorry. Could there be effects down the road of some kind? Could there be effects with sterility or the Children of Men movie scenarios? Yeah, it's possible. But in June or early June or late May, I sat in an outdoor, we pushed 3 tables together with basically my entire immediate family from outside Philadelphia. And these are the oldest, fattest, not in shape people you can possibly imagine. Every single one except me, obviously. Except, they've all done it. There was no change in any of them. My uncle had an issue. My uncle, but the family was like, well, it wasn't like he had it and he was rushed. I mean, it was like he had it weeks before. They wouldn't go there. They wouldn't put it together. Of course, it's possible or likely, but out of the whole family, the uncle had an issue. Was it related? Probably, of course, probably. The family would never admit that. But the rest of the old, fat, sickly people had no issue, okay, from what they. I'm not, don't take what I'm saying out of context, okay? Matt's promoting the. Come on. Come on. We have to be fair and present all sides here. You want me just to do a BitChute channel and just, oh, that's going to kill everybody? You want me to do that? Come on. I know the way a lot of people thinking this is people getting all sour. If you're not going to make a channel and just say how it's going to kill everybody, and if your channel's not the darkest of the dark all the time, then it's almost like it violates many truthers have an addiction to the worst case scenario and they want to turn you off. Anyway, whatever. Let me lose a few thousand people. I don't care. It's too important to certain people to hear all this and to weigh it honestly on all sides, fairly. So to me, it wouldn't. I would care. I don't care about the body aspect or the adverse effects there. Well, bad. Even if it could be proven that graphene, or over time, or even 10, 15 years, it would kill. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. I would care if I was 22 or 25. I don't care. If I needed to put food on the table for my kids, or to have a normal life. For me, it doesn't matter living in my hole here, making videos, studying reality all day long. It doesn't matter for me. But if I was in that situation where I had worked for the hospital group, my decision, let me, and I don't mean to go on and on and on, I'm sorry, it's very difficult to talk about, would not in any way be about the body. If I had to continue to do this to put food on the table, I would take my chances with adverse effect, whatever. I just don't care. I'm not afraid of death. I see this as one train stop and to learn as much as we can. We're in the avatar. We will move on to something else spiritually after this. I just simply don't care. Okay, that's me. So therefore, my decision almost 100% would be about spiritually protecting one's spiritual essence, protecting the soul, where this where it would get my attention in a BitChute video saying, Matt, if bowing down to it, taking the knee before it, and doing it is giving your the biggest soul token away you possibly can imagine. If now that I'm not saying it is, that's not okay. Let's just again, all I'm saying here is if somebody made a video about that, that's what would get my attention. Not that it's going to do this to my body or that. I just don't care. All right. It's all about spiritual, it's protecting the soul, spiritual essence, and whatever spiritually we've accomplished here in this lifetime. That is all that matters to me. And I'm not saying that's all it should matter to you. I'm just saying from my perspective. So the point is, this is, anybody that is, works for a corporation and they're basically being forced, or they feel they're being forced, or have you had this serious conversation with yourself? Are you afraid of body effects or soul and spirit side, or both? You have to write it out, and you have to be true. You have to at least know where you stand on that. I'm just telling you where I stand. I just don't care about the one side. Um, if it what's it going to do? Cut short my young life? Who gives a shit? That's the way, but that's my take. Whatever. Matt, go jump off a bridge then if you don't care. Well, and they take it too far the other way. Um, so, okay. If it's let's just explore the spiritual side. This obviously the next 40 trillion years is slightly more important than the next 40 months or 40 years in someone's life, and it's, obviously you have to put it in a term we can understand. Trillion years. There's, if you're part of something that always has been and always will be, there ain't no years. But that's kind of the more important part to me, to a factor of 10 to like the trillionth power. So um, if I was in that situation, had three kids, had worked for a hospital group, and basically the writing's on the wall. And if well, what am I going to do if I get fired or have to leave this job? Well, this is, if I was in this situation, if I never took the path that I did, and I never left the big insurance company in San Francisco in the late 90s, and I just had kids, and I was, high up in the insurance company, but then I had all these bills to pay and two kids about to go to college. This is the decision that I would go through, and a lot of you are in that situation. So nothing's going to come out here quick, guys. I'm sorry, this is very difficult. Nothing's coming quick. Anybody's like, get to it? No, I don't. I was just sitting in a chair thinking and thinking. I said, I just need to do this on the fly. Sometimes my best thinking and ideas come when I just do this on the fly. So body or spiritual soul. Okay, now we're on the spiritual and soul side. Then the major thing that hits you now is, do you believe, no matter what your personal beliefs are, religious beliefs, do you believe that a a jab or whatever they're going to, whatever you have to take here, and I have to always speak in a roundabout manner so I don't get a banner ad. Do you believe that can steal your spiritual essence? All right. You have to come to grips with this. Do you believe it can? My overwhelmingly, what's coming up is a few things. One, in this reality, I really believe you have to doom yourself. You have to do it to yourself. The whole reality is structured so ultimately you make the bad choices yourself. And there's very few instances, although there are some instances people could talk about if they're making a presentation, where the evil here, the dark, simply, you know, completely invaded your free will and invaded your reality bubble and forced, you know, your head under the water, for example. There are situations, again, where you can make that argument, like, the 17-year-old that's heading to Utah and Omaha Beach about to get off the landing craft. I mean, did the not milk put that kid in that situation? Did he choose it? Even if they fed him a bunch of patriotic rhetoric, did he choose it? Was he capable of choosing it? Okay, there are all those situations, but for the most part, we all would agree, for the most part, it puts its fruit out, it puts its propaganda out, and it's non-natural paths, and it asks you to make the wrong decision. That's the way this reality is structured. So, as I've said, and if there is any merit to, if you get jabba dabba do, that it has a spiritual or soul ramification, I do believe this aspect, and we'll go and build from here. And I absolutely believe this. I've said this in emails to people. It's just the way this game of life works. It's not to make myself feel better. If they force, the jackboots come in here and slam me down and boom, pull out the thing in the shoulder, I've won. There is no spiritual issue whatsoever in that situation of being forced. I absolutely believe that. You have to go through these processes mentally to see if you believe that sort of thing, what your inner knowing or inner tuning fork is telling you. But it's just the way this reality is structured, how I've studied it for almost 12 years now, hardcore, at least 10. They force you. Go ahead. I've won. Well, everything. Won what? Everything. Just everything. Why is that? Because I said so. Because that's just the way that to me, this game has to work. Um, so that being said, and I have emailed back and forth certain people that, along the same lines, if you believe that, then the more you would consider yourself to be forced, the more strength your argument would have on there being no, if you have to do it for your job, there'd be no spiritual or soul ramifications if you are being forced to do it. Now, if anybody wants to be yelling at me at this point of the presentation saying, Matt, do you see where this is going? Where you see where this is going is, as a potentially powerful creator generator being here, while we're in the avatar, we're not that powerful, but the spiritual side of us that's connected to something that's outside of here, pretty darn powerful. Much, much more than the minions here, the Melvin P's and all that. Pretty darn powerful. Anybody yelling at me saying, Matt, you see where this is going? It's up to you. You have to if you what you believe is what is. Okay, this is the way it's going. What you believe ultimately is what is. There are very, very smart people that believe what you believe will happen to you at death is what will happen because you created it. So what would be the difference in this situation? If you believe that, well, this just look, I have a certain lifestyle, and I just got the AVP promotion, three kids, two are going to college, and we have the two timeshares, and I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. I don't. There's no way it can't steal my soul. It can't. It just. And that's too skewed on one side. I know. But if you kind of like, you can't lie to yourself. You can't lie to yourself. If you believe, you could say, I'm being forced. Yeah, I'm being. You can try to convince yourself, but you can't lie to yourself. You say, I'm being forced. Yeah, ultimately the writing's on the wall. Ultimately I'm gonna have to do this, so I might as well just do it now. Then I can go to the NFL or whatever. And I know it's people in this community don't think like that. I need to be skewed on one side so you understand the point that I'm making. Well, I'm gonna be forced anyway. Might as well just do it. Then you've kind of lied to yourself. And ultimately, if there is a spiritual aspect to this, it might be, the more I think about it, the more inner knowing comes forth. It's about you actually doing it to yourself. So on the other side, if somebody's like, I work for this hospital group, and you know, somebody else is like, I'm being forced. I mean, they're not being, somebody truly believes that this not milk system has completely broken the rules, has overstepped whatever its contractual bounds here. It was put here, the not milk system, the assholes were put here potentially contractually to play a part, to play a role in your spiritual progression. If somebody's like, I'm being forced, it's completely overstepped its bounds. This is along the same lines of the jackboots coming in here throwing me down. You just laugh at it. Fine, I've won. I've won. Well, who says you? I did. You broke the rules. And maybe it's the rules as you lay them down or we lay them down. Um, but somebody truly believes, and I think remember email exchange with a person from Hawaii was, you can't fool yourself, and but it's not well, Matt, anybody always has a choice. You're never ever forced. You could just grab your best cardboard box and go live on a hill somewhere with your family, and remember in Scrooge and Jacob Marley's Scrooge, or the Christmas Carol with George C. Scott, the family, he was living under a bridge with his two kids. Um, and anybody can go do that, Matt. So you're never forced. I don't know. I don't believe that. Now, again, you have to decide. I'm just floating ideas so you can decide what you believe, what your inner knowing will tell you. And I'll say some things that resonate with you, and I'll say some things you completely disagree with. But I don't believe that. I don't believe as long as we have a cardboard box to go live in, then we're never forced. I don't believe that. I don't believe this. We were born into this system. Um, it's like, Matt, you're giving your soul tokens away if you just use your legal fiction of first name caps, last name caps on a driver's license to drive a car. I don't believe that. I believe it's up to us to give it power, to breathe life into it, or to remove power from it. We were born into this, okay? Now, I don't want to get into now. We knew exactly. We agreed to come here. We knew exactly the situation we were going to be in. I can't speak to that. I don't have any. I'm Tommy here. I'm the deaf, dumb, and blind kid. I don't remember past incarnations or what my higher self had planned for me or God had planned for me. Or I don't have any recollection of that. All I was born into a system, deaf, dumb, and blind. And see, use the rules of the system. If you're formulating mentally where you need to be on this thing. Use the rules of the system against itself. Don't let it get away with the bullshit it's getting away with. So, um, for example, we're born into this. Say you're born in the United States. You're born into a whole series of promises from this not milk system. So this isn't really coming out right, but let's just say the decision we need to make was I don't know, this is not going to come out right at all. But we'll get back to the freedom of speech thing. I know this is all over the place. This is difficult, guys. The freedom of speech thing. And, I'm told not to speak, or there are certain spiritual ramifications if I speak a certain way. And I'd be like, no, 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 non-elk system. You spent my entire life telling me that the most valued thing in our societal existence here is the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech. You told me how that is number one amongst everything else. So you can't if you're gonna you can't change the rules on me here. Okay, you can't change the rules on me. There is no ramifications if I continue to speak. So the system promised freedoms. It promised things if you were born into the United States, or at least if you were born into a quote Western country. It made promises to you. It put forth its it had talked to you for 25 years how it valued medical privacy via laws and rules like HIPAA. And it said how it told you for 25 years, my body, my decision. And it showed how that, but then it's changing the rules on you. And if it's changing the rules of it, of what it promised your entire life, then that is huge ammunition into potentially the idea of you being forced. So to get to the main heart of the matter, it relates back to the jackboots coming here throwing me down. There's no spiritual. I don't lose spiritually. I win. It's the opposite. I win in everything. The pinball goes tilt 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 for a million years if they have jackboots come in here, and so it's the same thing. If you feel that you're being forced, then part of the decision or the mental the place you would need to come to mentally you would say you're being forced is how many rules, how many promises has this system broken? So let's just put it this way. So for people that believe there's a spiritual and or soul ramification for doing it, for getting it, giving away a gigantic soul token, or people, could even think it's a worse. That's Horcruxing your soul and all, all the dark side of potentially what it could be. We need to explore that here, as hard as it is to talk about and to fathom this stuff. But it's not going to be a physical process. Whatever, whatever, oh, it's mad. Don't you know it's a graphene and black goo and it's going to bind your soul? Do I know? No. Do I? But in my opinion, absolutely not. It's not going to be in any way a physical process. It's a spiritual bending of the knee. It's you doing it to yourself. It's saying, well, I'm going to eventually be forced, so I'm going to do it. So yes, I'm saying that if you are forced into it, I don't believe this is what Danny Minley talked about a year ago. I don't believe it has power over you. I really believe that. And ultimately, guess what? What you really believe is probably what is. Can't fool yourself. Can't lie to yourself. And one way, not that you should continue to frame arguments to try to convince yourself that there's no spiritual ramification for doing it, so then before you can do it and your life becomes easy again. You can't lie to yourself. But if I'm not in this situation. I can only pretend to be in this situation. Never left the insurance company, live in California, huge taxes, huge. You need a lot of money to live out there. Two kids ready to go to college. Say, well, this system promised me something. It promised freedom. It promised HIPAA. It promised my body, my decision, and it's breaking all the rules. If it's breaking all the rules, and somebody is essentially forced, then I don't see it as much different than the me taking the power away in some sort of mini ritual from I mean, again, I don't practice magic or anything like that, but I understand that at least I have a connection to something that's not here that's probably pretty darn powerful. It's like the bad M or F on the wallet, Jules' wallet in Pulp Fiction, that it's up to me. If I believe it proves how powerful we are because it always wants our buy-in. It can't operate on its own. It needs us to move society this way and that. It proves that we have generative power here, creative power, because it's always dangling the carrot to get society or groups of masses of people to move in a certain way. And it can't accomplish its aims directly. We've observed that. And it does something like a problem reaction solution or Hegelian dialectic. Then it, like after the 7/11 2001, it presents a narrative about this is a scary thing, and there's going to be when you go to the airport, take your shoes off because this threat's here, and then it presents a narrative so the collective conscious kind of believes something and brings it into existence, brings it into reality. So I don't believe that the act alone, without the person basically taking a spiritual need to it, I don't believe the act alone or the physical nature or whatever is in the fluid, I don't think that can do it. Absolutely not. Matt, you're just making yourself feel better. No way. No way. Call on your inner knowing and your inner tuning fork. Do you believe a liquid in the arm can steal your soul or destroy you or at least set you way back spiritually? Think about it. Think about it. Hard. Come on. Come on. It's not the physical, we have to be in these avatars, but that's whatever we do here or not do spiritually. It's not about physical or what's in a liquid. Come on, come on. It's about again. It always comes back to the decisions you make, or so. Um, I do agree with Danny Mind on that. Just to put some liquid in again, the jackboots throw me down. They ain't gonna do crap to me spiritually. Um, it's like Obi-Wan, strike me down, Darth, and I'll come back more powerful than you possibly can imagine. You know, so the risk of these assholes take for themselves is they have overstepped from almost anybody's metrics. They have overstepped, and I haven't examined the contract, or it seems like they have some contractual role to be assholes here. So we learn a lesson spiritually, and from my perspective, they've broken the rules. They're just broken the rules. You can't tell me something my entire life about Matt, here in first grade, here's this Bill of Rights that protects you protects you and all, and then just violate every bit of it. And then when we're in a position where we believe we're forced to go along with it, we're just horcruxing our own soul off. Come on. So even from that perspective, it's such a strong argument. I feel like I'm making some sort of like attorney case in front of the cosmic court. Like, what was that scene from Heavy Metal? What was it? Captain Stern? Captain Stern! Calling, what were they? Well, anyway, defending Captain Stern in Heavy Metal is this is actually a much easier case to make than that. But it's all about, it always comes back to you. It seems like the reality is out to convince you that um, there's a gigantic spiritual shackles and ramification if you take the knee before it. And if you just rush right out to do it just because you don't want to miss the NFL game next week with your friends, and I don't know what the NFL is doing, if they're requiring it or not. I just don't bother with it. I don't watch it. I don't think they are now, but you see what I'm saying. I might have some of my specifics wrong. If you just if you just say, eventually I'm going to have to do it for my job, and I want to go to next week with Joey to the NFL, that is basically potentially spiritually taking the knee before it. And there could be ramifications. And again, we're on the soul side, spiritual side. I don't care about the body side. I just don't. I've said that. Well, Matt, what if it would kill would kill you off in 5 years or something? Again, I wouldn't do it if I knew that, because it's just me here. But if I had to send kids to college and was had all these responsibilities, I don't think I would care. But I don't know. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not about the body. I've said that earlier. It's all about the soul and spiritual side. And again, if you're making a presentation like an attorney's argument against it to the not milk system, you'd say, so our entire lives, and again, I'm only from the perspective of somebody born in the United States, guys. We have more ammo to work with here in the United States because of what they promised us. Those outside the United States, we from first grade, they rolled out the Bill of Rights, and I pledge allegiance and all this stuff, and I can't even say it. I can't. Video won't load. But then Bill of Rights, and the teacher spent a whole day showing you about freedom of speech, the First Amendment, and freedom of religion. And again, that right there should get at everybody that wants out of the, you should, if they're breaking all the rules, and if this has to help from a spiritual decision standpoint, they're breaking all the rules. Right alongside of freedom of speech in the First Amendment is freedom of religion. And if it's truly, you can't lie to yourself. I'm going to fake that it's against my religion to do it. Well, that's lying to yourself. There could be a spiritual consequence for that. But if somebody is of a certain religion, and they're like, per the way I interpret the Bible, or per the way I interpret the Quran, or whatever your religion may be, this is just absolutely a violation. So they truly believe it's a spiritual violation. Based on that, and based on the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights, which is supposed to be the shining star of rights protection anywhere in the world since 1790, there's no way any corporation could force it based on the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights. It would simply be a religious exception, and the corporation would try to force it. And if anything were real, this proves they violated all the contractual terms. This proves they've broken all the rules. If anything were real, you would simply get an attorney and say, this company, they did, it wasn't like a small violation of like a local ordinance, like how deep the hole should be when you build onto your deck. They broke the rules around the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights. So therefore, we're going to sue them for about $10 million. Yeah, if it would be over. There'd be, if anything were real, a judge would say, well, it's right there, the number one of the Bill of Rights. And if so, somebody, you can't force somebody to do this if it's against the religion. It literally is that simple, guys. These are the rules that this system gave us. Therefore, this system is breaking and violating all the rules. And I would think that if you're in a very difficult situation and there's just simply, your life is going to be a living hell for whatever reason, if you don't do this and you don't, like me, you really don't give a shit about the physical potential harm, then if you get to a situation, this is my opinion, a couple thousand people unsub me, who cares? This is too important. I'm going to give you my best take on this. I'm not going to try to please all sides here. If you get to this, I'm just trying to help you with your argument, Matt. You're trying to help get people in a position where they're going to just run out and get it. Interpret it any way you want. Many people in a very difficult situation. Maybe you're not. Well, that's wonderful for you. Again, there's thousands and thousands and thousands that have, that this system promised certain things. The system promised the American dream. So they went out and maybe in their late 20s they bought a house that was a little too big. And nobody knows shit about anything until they're 40 or 45. Nobody knows shit about, they artificially keep you in a state of childhood here. That's another trick it plays. Arrested development, or that's Matthew McConaughey, a failure to launch, all that shit. It does it to you on purpose. So maybe somebody did buy a house that was a little too big, and maybe their wife did get a lease payment that's a little too much, and the kids did get promised the eye. What you have certain the system promised all of this, and now it's pulling the rug out from under. Now, again, you can't lie to yourself. Someone said, well, we can get out from this big home. We can not have the two Mercedes leases. We can go live. The kids aren't going to go, but we have enough on the side. We're not going to do the jabba dabba do. You can't lie to yourself. But, if it's very difficult on tens of thousands of people, and this is in our community. I'm not, well, maybe it is just limited to our community because the people that the Pam, my Pam, not my girlfriend, but she works for a drug company. Of course, she was thrilled to get it as soon as it was made available. That's where most people are coming from. Um, they would think we're even insane for having a spiritual discussion that it could affect your spiritual essence or in some way affect your soul. Your soul. They would think we're crazy. They think we're crazy for even having a conversation about physical ramifications. I mean, that's how bad it is. That's how gone these people are. I mean, whatever. So, um, this is a system that's promised us so many things, and then it's in the last literally 2 years has just pulled the rug out on everything that it promised would be a bedrock of your existence as a quote, its term citizen in the United States. So ultimately, all of these things, can be used, and you can't just, if you feel you're being forced, you have to experience some pain. Can't be like, well, I'm going to experience pain next year, so I might as well do it now. No, you have to experience some pain. Like forewarned long ago's kid just walked out of he was ready to be on a sub he 20 years Navy, just walked away on his entire life. That's a consequence. That is a sacrifice. One of the biggest um, sacrifices that you'll hear any. Obviously many of us in this community don't think going in the military is so great, but when he went in, a 17-year-old, they're going to have a different notion on what is and what is not. It doesn't matter. This is what his plan for the future was. Gave it all up. Entire life is changed. So that's a sacrifice. That's feeling the pain. So then goes to get a corporate job, can't get any job because who knows how much they're going to ramp this up. You know, are they going to get to? Is it going to get to a point where you won't be able to walk outside your front door if you're not? Probably not. But who knows if they'll continue to ramp it up. And again, from a spiritual side, he might be like, I made my sacrifice. I this system, I don't care about the physical side effects. I need to do this to get this job. I need to be able to put food on the table. This and could he put himself in a position or anybody in a similar situation, just using this as an example, where there's no spiritual consequence because the sacrifice was made, the pain was made, and the system essentially forced it on somebody. That's where I'm coming from. Somebody wants to, so Matt, you just gave people an excuse to do it. Say what you want. Say what you want. It all stems from knock the door down, come in here and throw me down, and I win. I win every bit of everything there is to win here. I win. Well, who says that, Matt? I did. I did. Ultimately, it's probably that simple. It tries to get you to believe a certain thing, so you manifest a certain thing. You know, even with potentially the adverse side effects, it could be. This is mostly an illusory matrix. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe every single one of my old fat relatives in their 70s, and every one of them had it. Not one issue at all. My uncle did have an issue. It's not this mass death that the BitChute community talks about. Every single one of them probably was thrilled to do it, believed it would be so wonderful for their body. And did that help them avoid certain averse? Yeah, probably. You have to understand the way reality works here with real uh, quantum spiritual creators, generator beings. This is it's not even a theory anymore. It's just so obvious. That's why they push collective consciousness and push groups in a certain way. So they manifest the sick reality that these creeps want. So, these effects would that's why all the old fat people, they were thrilled to line up and get it. My dad had no, if my dad was worried, like, oh, I heard that it could do this, I heard it could do that, maybe he'd bring that upon himself. My dad, we couldn't wait to get it. Couldn't wait. I told you, he called me and he said, oh, I just found out I'm in Florida until January, whatever, but you can call on my behalf because you're my son. Can you dial with me? We're going to dial all day long. I mean, because he's my father, I called a couple times. It was busy for hours and hours and millions of people trying to get through. It was busy. I dialed a few times. Said, Dad, I tried. I'm not going to lie to him. I didn't sit there all day long and dial. Oh, yeah, you know, whatever. Very token effort, so I could say I tried. I made a few calls and I hung up. But he was thrilled. Now you don't think in some way if you don't I don't you don't understand how reality works if you think that is not at all a factor, that he just couldn't wait. And you know um, if somebody's screaming out at me, well, that's Matt, that is absolutely taking the spiritual knee before the system. Yeah, it is to a degree. Is my father the same as me? I don't want to get into in this video to NBC and organic portals and different levels of spiritual incarnations and all that. You know, if he is the same as me spiritually, and we started out um, the same, with exactly the same from a spiritual perspective, you know, some smart people would say, tethered, etherically, tethered in a way you can't see to an aspect of you that's not here, then it is for the most part, it would be considered absolutely just going along and loving everything the system ever did, taking the knee before it, taking the knee before Princess Targaryen or whatever that yeah, yeah. And is there, what are the consequences for that? I don't know. I don't know. At least another many people believe there are, are as we as spiritual beings are powerful to a certain nature that nothing here, none of these minions can harm the original essence of who we are. So, but there could be, Tony would say just, didn't that person didn't provide anything in terms of learning to its higher self, and some maybe put it back into samsara, or would just do it all over again for 1,000 more times or 1,000,000 more times. We're at the point, many of us here, that we kind of sense what's going on, and if there is a possibility for a repeat, a Tom Cruise live, die, repeat movie where he just keeps coming back over it. If there's a chance of it, we don't want to do this again. We want to make sure we make all the proper decisions so that we don't, the stakes for us are probably a lot higher because we don't want to do this. We want to use this as our opportunity, our window to get out. Where maybe somebody like my father, they got a long way to go, and they got 1,000 more realities somewhere they're not even close to learning anything. They got a long way to go anyway. But even with him running out and just can't wait to get it, do I believe you have to? I was going to say, and then I'll back up. I was going to say, do I believe that a liquid here can through a physical process horcrux your soul or steal or cut your spiritual essence? No, I don't. And I think that's the most powerful thing we have is belief. Um, the old sick family members around me, yeah, I would have thrown out, hey, don't, none of you, before you do it, you're putting your soul in jeopardy. They would laugh. They don't, most of the family's Catholic. They would laugh and go, you've got to be kidding me. But it's about staying safe and doing the right thing for others. And potentially the way this reality works, because they believed how wonderful and how good they're doing, that they weren't risking their self spiritually. I don't know. So it works both ways. If they believed that they weren't in any spiritual jeopardy, maybe it's as simple if they were the same type of incarnation we are, quantum generator spiritual beings, that they did protect themselves. But then again, over here I'm talking about my father taking taking the knee before the system, and there being consequences to doing that. I don't know. In terms of the people around us, forget that. It has to do with your own personal decision. And you start with the fork in the road. Are you trying to avoid this for a physical reason, for the body and what it could do, or is it much 100 billion trillion quadrillion times more important because there could be a spiritual or a soul negative effect? You know, one side is so much more important than the other side. There is no words in the English language to even describe how different they are on the scales. I mean, it's not even so. But what does it's so funny. Now, what is most of this community or BitChute? What are most videos talking about? What are 95 out of 100 videos talking about? Um, Adverse effects, illness, sickness, clots, all the stuff that could happen to the body. Again, emphasis on the who cares? Eh, Oh man, I mean, what if you'll literally leave, will die at some point, and be like, you will see yourself literally stepping into a closet and stepping out in one thousandth of a second. He's like, I made all these decisions about life, the body, the avatar, adverse effects on the body. If I just not even backing up that far, but just looking at it from the true nature of who you are, going into this existence, it's like stepping in and out of a closet for one millionth of a second. Or that's probably 1,000 years too long. To make decisions based on that is ridiculous. Well, Matt, if you could go to all the NFL games and go to college football games or whatever, why don't you just get it, and then if you just croak in 30 days, that you say you don't care. Well, look, uh, we're here now. Okay, we're here now. We have limitations in the avatar, and we have instincts here, very, very strong instincts. Just the way if you have gone all day in the hot sun and you haven't had anything to drink, and you take that drink of water, it's just so we have these instincts. The will to live here is kind of strong. I mean, this is the whole essence of our experience here. It's one thing to from a mental standpoint understand that it's just going in and out of a closet in a millionth of a second, and to come to grips with that's likely what this incarnation is. It's another thing when you're in the middle of it, to make decisions based on that. I mean, obviously, the body itself will do anything it can, and the ego, that's derives its sense of worth from this place, will do anything it can to survive. So it's not as simple as, Matt, why don't you just go jump off a bridge then? It's not that simple. You know, the somebody could tell you that this is a simulation and it's completely lifelike, or I mean, there's a truck coming at you and it's fun to do, and you just stand in front of the Mack truck. Pretty hard. I mean, let's just say a completely lifelike simulation, and a Mack truck is coming at you at 60 miles an hour. Pretty hard. Again, this is a bad example. Completely realistic. Pretty hard not to flinch or to jump aside. So if you so, you know, um, anyway, I guess I'm just rambling, and it's been all over the place. I hope this has helped a few people come to. You have to put yourself into a certain mental position, and then you have to stick to it, whatever it may be. To define your own threshold and stick to it. If you are in one of these situations where you're being squeezed more than we ever could have imagined that this system was capable of. To me, they've broken all the rules, they've violated all the contracts, and who says so? I say so, based on the promises that they've made. They've broken them all, and there's a lot to be used against these creeps based on that. But that's just my take. Thanks, guys.